Yeah, but okay, so welcome to Hub AI's event. It's very exciting. Every month we try and have like a new topic, and we've never had entrepreneurship yet. So it's an honor to have you here today. Of course, Hub AI is all about drawing synergies on artificial intelligence in various fields. So doing it in an interdisciplinary setting on entrepreneurship to understand how to use your business skills in order to start a type of business and consultancy firm in AI is really interesting to know about, and I'm sure many of our listeners would need the advice if that's what they would like to do. I said today, I don't know if I could start my own business, so kudos to you for where you are today.
Thank you.
And so now let me introduce you to the speaker after bigging him up for the last 500 hours. So you're Abdulla, and you did political science as a bachelor's, which is very refreshing. Usually they're business to study people, so, or economics, no offense. Yeah, and so what started off as a bit of a corridor project is now a full-blown business. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce in way more detail than what I've done. And yeah, very excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And yeah, hello everyone. My name is Abdulla. I'm the project manager for Invinius Group, and I'm very pleased to actually have you all here. I want to start everything off by asking a question. Do you know of all consumers in the world, how big of a percentage do write reviews after that they have like consumed or bought a product?
10.
10?
5.
3.
Wow, actually really good. It's actually between 3 and 5.
Hey.
3 to 5% in the world they write reviews. And do you know how much of the market that influences in billions of dollars? Could someone guess?
20.
20?
10.
10. It's actually $400 billion a year. And that's quite a big market. Now, if I tell you that me and Noor right here, that we possess technology that can boost this up to 78%, what would you say? Do you think that would actually increase this number?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, that's what we do. We have the AI that actually does this. We use thermographic analysis of emotional response, and through that, we can analyze the subconscious of humans when they purchase a product, meaning that whenever you move around, we could literally gather up the emotions of an individual. So we got a call a few days back from an analyst from Stockholm and told me, Abdullah, we need to solve fear. And and I looked at it, I was like, okay, we could actually do that. So we're working on a project that could actually sense fear, and we're going to place this technology into areas in Sweden where we will sense fear. And by that, we could reallocate police resources more efficiently and combat criminality. That's one of the applications of this product. Sorry, Zoom audience. So I can't talk a lot more about this project. We're actually going into a patent in the 2nd of March. So once that is completed, I could come with further details on the development of this product. However, jumping into the entrepreneurship of this product is actually quite fun. It started off from a corridor, meeting up with a lot of my friends, Noor especially. We were working with multiple different projects, actually. Then we realized there's a lot of engineers around us, a lot of people from LTH, which are not actually pursuing the service. They are not selling their services. That's when we realized that we could actually do a product development study, me and Noor, and use the skills of these engineers to pursue multiple different innovations. So for instance, this product that we have here is thanks to multiple engineers that are working on it, which me and Noor found the skills within them. However, the initial stage was to research and comprehend the notion we were aiming at the time. We started off with a plant maintenance system. And we actually did it for fun. I think that people got really interested into the plant maintenance system was because of the team. People were really interested into like saying, oh, there's a lot of drive, there's a lot of market analysis being done here. So people got really interested. That's when we installed our first AI in Malmö, which was a plant maintenance AI. And further on, we continue to develop multiple different innovations. And right now we are fully running business within the analytical sphere instead of plants. And yeah, I mean, how did it go from a fun idea to basically a business model? We were pretty stressed out when we actually thought about it. How could we actually make this into a business? We came up with the idea of using nearby resources and the resource that everyone here got, and that is the Venture Lab. We went to Venture Lab to verify our idea, and we did. We ended up meeting a person who recently got his job at Venture Lab and is now one of our members, like of the team, Johannes Ramberg. And we verified the idea through him, which gave us a lot of, I don't know, like a first step into the market. He told us that's a good idea. So we continued on it. Later on, because it started getting more serious, we jumped into LU Innovation, where we got funding from the whole LU Innovation part. I really want to recommend this Venture Lab and Innovation for anyone here that wants to pursue entrepreneurship, because they could guide you, coach you, and show you exactly what to execute in order for your business model to actually become reality. So yeah, I mean, the resources, very important. But there are a couple of points that I really want to discuss right here, and that is actually the struggles within the entrepreneurship world. Hello. And so when you start a business, you will confront several challenges, honestly. And as a result, I want to go through a couple of bullet points here, which I feel are the most difficult challenges that we have faced. And the first one, you will undoubtedly generate tremors in your work-life balance. I noticed this while studying and actually going into a very serious business, that is your work-life balance. How do I study? I wrote my thesis at the same time we were pitching at multiple events. And that was actually very shattering. It was very difficult. However, if you face this work-life balance and you actually do produce good results out of it, you will 100% be ready for every single challenge within the entrepreneurship world. The second bullet point, your financial skills will be put to test. This is something I've talked about with Noor, who is our CFO in the company. If you don't have any leverage, you may perform stuff for free. That's what we did a lot. And that's a bit of a problem, because you're putting actually a lot of time and you're not getting any money, but you don't have any leverage, so you don't have anything to show. So CSN is the best venture cap you could ever get. I don't know how many of you are actually Swedish right here, but CSN, you get basically money for being a student in Sweden. And that is actually the best venture cap ever. And I got this confirmed by talking with Linus Weber, who was the CEO of LU Innovation for 10 years. And he's also one of the developers of ARM at Ideon. He actually made that office. So he got 200 people working for him. And he told me, Abdullah, don't care about money right now, just care about you getting your CSN. And I told him that sounds brilliant. The third bullet point, and this is actually something I face a lot, actually until to this day, I don't even know why I still have this problem, and that is overanalyzing. Sometimes you will end up in a situation where you think everything will go super wrong, or maybe you think that the outcome will be in a certain way, and then you plan strategically to meet those issues. But do you know what the problem is? The startup world is very uncertain. Whatever you plan to do, that is not the outcome. It will be completely different. And that's what we noticed. So what we did was to actually realize the fact that go with the flow. We'll see what happens. Get the mentality straight, being a good individual with a lot of energy, and just see what the outcome will be. If the outcome is a failure and everything goes against you, that's not a problem. You will learn and you will develop and you will continue to go and face other challenges and because of your experience from the first failure, you will literally succeed at the next one. So don't overanalyze, even though it's really difficult to actually not. And the fourth bullet point is actually one that hits me the most. Being a project manager is actually something quite stressful because there is one thing about it. You always got to keep people happy, and you always got to take the first step. Taking the first step means that you're entering a battle of negotiations, or you're going to talk to someone or do something very weird, but your team depends on you. So you got to maintain them happy. You got to show them that you got confidence into going or taking the first step. Also, with maintaining happiness, that's when you raise capital. That's when we realize that we need to show our investors all the time that we are the best people they could invest in, keeping them happy. So we came up with a strategy, honestly. We thought, okay, program AI to 100%. That makes people happy. That makes the investor happy. Wow, Abdulla and the team made a full-scale AI. Awesome. But the problem is that it takes a lot of time, and they might get bored and find other people to invest in who are actually working quicker than you. So what we did is that we took 10% of the whole scale AI and we hyped it so much that the investor thinks that this is going to change the world by this 10%. So that is by keeping the investor happy, you will get money. And when you get money, you will literally grow. That's actually one of the bullet points I really value here. So what are the key learnings? Basically, our private mentor is Eric Wilson. He's the project manager of AI Sweden, an national institution based to promote AI services in Sweden. He told us something very interesting, something I did not like in the beginning, and that was transparency. I did not want to have no, being transparent with clients, that's a bad thing, I thought. Because being honest will show your weaknesses. So you're basically telling them, I could do this 100% AI, but I will face these struggles. I did not realize that I should actually tell them about the struggles, because they will help us. They will actually help us, and did not realize that. So being transparent with your investor, very important. But the most important part of this bullet point right here is that you have to be transparent with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. In the business world, it's actually a very naughty world. I'm being very serious here. Entering this sphere, people actually just care about themselves. They care about the survival of their own business. They don't care about if you actually gonna get more money or anything. They are thinking about themselves. So when we entered this sphere, we noticed one thing that, especially me and Noor felt this. You can cause tremors within your own company, and causing tremors within your own company might seem to be a bit scared. For instance, we had to fire someone. Do you know how scary it was to fire someone for the first time? And we were just 23 years old, and actually going into there to tell somebody, oh, you're not gonna work anymore with us because we don't value your work anymore. We were afraid to do that. So we did that actually very late. And do you know what happened? It caused so much tremors in the company, so many issues in this, but we had to do it because later on we understood that we have to be transparent with ourselves. And if it causes a tremor by kicking someone out early, you should cause that tremor. That's not a problem. So transparency, very important. Be honest with yourself. Second part, organization. That's key. Business is like a society. You're running a society, you know. You have a doctor, you have professors and engineers, and they all make up this whole society of ours, which is the greatest innovation on this planet. But actually, a business is actually exactly the same thing. You got to keep it running good. You got to tell people exactly what to do. You got to have a plan for each single member, and you have to also keep them happy. So having a very well-founded organization is very important. That's the second most important factor of it. And the third one, I actually took this from Nike. Just do it. And honestly, just do it. We saw when we were in Venture Lab in LA Innovation, we saw that many people did not want to take the first step to talk to investors because they were too afraid of the outcome. And we thought that that was actually quite a weird idea of not to do it. But then we felt the same. We were actually a bit afraid. But then we actually started doing it. We started reaching out to people, adding every single one on LinkedIn. And right now, if you go into my LinkedIn and Noosh as well, we have almost the whole parliament of Saudi Arabia as our friends, which is quite insane. But we do. That's because we reached out to them and we wrote to them stunning messages, which they could not say no to. So that's how we expanded internationally. And that expansion internationally was the one that got us national investors because they saw they could scale up really quick. So just do it. Just jump in. Do whatever you need to do to get that money. The fourth most important key learning is actually time. Be time efficient. Because if you're not time efficient, a lot of stuff will actually fall. And in the business world, you have to be fast because you're in like this, especially in the startup world, it's very volatile. You're in this sphere with so many different startups and everyone is trying to get that investor because without that investor, none of these startups would live or survive. So being time efficient and compete against the other startups is a very important key and exactly what the investors want to say. And the fifth one, which we are preaching a lot in Invinius, is the mentality. You have to have a staggering mentality, being always like, you need to have a great energy. So whenever you approach an investor, they need to see that you have the right mentality to actually handle a 12 million euro bag. I'm actually serious. They will not like, if you approach them and you're afraid and you don't have any like social energy there and they cannot feel it. Why would the investor actually be confident in giving you 10 or 12 million euros? So mentality is the number one thing out of these all. It's not transparency, forgive me. It's actually mentality, realizing it just now. So let's move forward to one part that I really want to discuss, and that is you guys, you being students here at Lund University. I can't understand that why people are not using their resources here. I see that many people are actually doing it and I really like it, but I want more people to do it because we got so much resources. You all here, if you're part of Lund University, that means that you are one of the top students in the world because you're part of such a prestigious institution. So if you're here in Lund, you should actually go to Venture Lab if you have any idea to just discuss anything. You don't have to start any business, but just to discuss ideas. You don't have to be the project manager. You could be whatever you want to be in this project. So please, that's like one tip that I really want to see everyone doing here. However, one of the points that we're supposed to discuss here is seeking capital and how to scale up. This is the most fun part. I cannot stress how fun this is. So if you're in Lund, there are multiple ways of seeking capital. I'm going to go very simple and say you can get help seeking capital with Venture Lab or Lund Innovation. You could go to them and find investors, basically. However, there is something really crucial to comprehend, and we discovered it via market research and extensive study of economic literature. Oh, wow. Okay, so you're jumping into a market. It's like a stock, like a country is like a stock. You check the market. We checked that, we looked into Sweden's average revenue. We saw that it's like 1.3% every year. That's the growth of Sweden's economy. Actually, right now, it has gone even further below due to Corona. Same goes throughout Europe. So we thought in Invinius, and this is what makes us very different, is that we think very a lot into the economy. And we noticed that if we are going to jump into the Swedish economy and scale up into Europe, we would go to the next phase in 2 years. That's quite a good time, actually. 2 years is quite good. But then we did another market research, and we did that in the Middle East. One of the reasons why we are there now. we saw that their revenue growth is 4 times larger than the whole Europe. So that's a stock that's going like this upwards, while the European one is more being stable. So we thought that if we can combine the Swedish market and the international market and seek investors there and seek investors here, we will reach our phases in actually just 4 months, which is insane. So we proposed that to a lot of investors, and that's where they actually, in Swedish, we call it nappa. That's when you get the investors, because they see, okay, you have the courage to jump into other markets and you understand these markets and you can actually perform in these markets and get dividend in a shorter period of time. So very important that you also learn another language. However, and I want to actually jump into with the books and influence. One of the we don't read books which talks about mentality. Honestly, we don't read books where individuals try to like portray their view on the world. Instead, we actually focus mainly on statistics. And we statistical work, and then we sit down. Me and you, Noor, do it actually every single day. We meet up, we tell each other news and statistics by evening, and then we have a discussion to ourselves, reach the mentality goals, as we call it, how our mentality should be and how we should approach these numbers. So that's very important as well. Guys, honestly, since we are here and we have such a cozy situation right now, I could talk a lot, way more, but since I want to have a more of an interaction with y'all, I want to ask you, like, how many here is actually pursuing an own business? 1, 2,
Yes.
3. Have you ever gone to Venture Lab? No. And you?
I have actually. I've actually been spoken with Johannes.
Yeah, with Ramberi.
So I have to say he was a very, very nice person as well, very opening. And I spoke to him about just a pitch that I had from my masters that I was going to try and pitch, and I pitched today. And I got some input from him as well. So
all right.
I would say that it's a very nice thing that you don't have to go with the full-on, as I said,
True.
idea, full-on business model.
Exactly.
But you can just get some kind of input about something, which can actually give you a bit more confidence boost to maybe perhaps even come back later with maybe something a bit more.
Precisely, it doesn't have to be your end product that you pitch to Venture Lab. I really like that you actually approached them.
Yeah.
Because you, Jacob, you didn't go to Venture Lab as well, right?
I haven't, because, well, first of all, very nice to see you.
Yes, same to you.
Well, because what I want to do is not really get an idea going. I'm going to start a business in real estate advisor in London.
Oh,
so it's like my own business, which I have to drive because I'm self-employed.
Oh, okay.
A company. But it's still, getting in, going out, talking to people.
That's really good. And sorry if I'm actually asking somebody questions here. It's not here. So now when you go, you're actually scaling already internationally, already going to the international market. How does that feel?
So first, we start, it's very local. It's also international in the way that people can buy property from other continents.
Wow. All right, really cool. I wish you luck. I'm really happy to see that people actually are interested in pursuing business. And yours is not that into Venture Lab yet, though. Why didn't you go to Venture Lab?
I didn't even know about it.
Oh, okay. You didn't even know about it. I really recommend this resource if you're a student here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my last semester, but what can I do?
Yeah. Better take your chances.
Yeah. Even though I just started very recently about opening my own business, just very, very recently. So I just hope, like, the way you can take it, I can actually take more ideas so I can try to build further.
That's very good.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you consider these points that I spoke about today as being valuable, I really recommend you going through, like, using these bullet points to also approach Venture Lab with the ideas you have. But yeah, this is actually all for me. I cannot talk more of our product. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are entering patent in the 2nd of March. So once that patent is pending, that's when I actually can talk about our product. So I would like to have like a little bit more of interaction with you. If you have any questions, I would like to also answer them. And yeah. Hugo.
I for sure have a question, but first, yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
It was really good, and I've been like engaged in trying to start an own business. Also last year with my friends, and this presentation is like really making me enthusiastic to get
Thanks.
that going again. So yeah,
Nice to hear.
as you were talking to yourself about energy and all
Yeah.
that, it's contagious. You know? Even though I kind of already closed the book and moved on, I can always open it again.
Yeah.
So I have two questions.
Yeah.
One about AI, like more of a question for clarifying, and the other one about energy, mentality, and strategy, as you talked about. You mentioned that you installed an AI in Malmö at the beginning of this, and that was kind of a breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
As I understood. But what does it mean actually if you install an AI? I don't really know.
Okay, a very good question. I would like
Plug
to
in a
answer.
computer in Malmö and it runs. Or...
Like, what is an AI? Like, if I actually, like, if we could go through that, like, what is an AI? It's basically your brain concluding the same conclusions you do, if you get me. So, me and Noor, we're sitting with this new product. We are analyzing reference images, 500 per emotion at each time. So that, and like the analyze part of the AI, and then you're storing the data. That conclusion you make, that is the AI. So gathering data, giving it to the AI, and the AI does the same conclusion. So when we installed it in Malmö, is basically we have a plant and we have trained this AI. So what this AI does is like it analyzes the plant, it gets to know the plant and draws conclusions of this plant's behavior. So the plant is behaving in this way. It's although a living being. So it gathered a lot of data. Moving on to that point, it could see before it gets pests. So before it actually becomes sick, the AI understands its behavior and could directly attack the pests. So that's how the first AI was.
Okay, so I guess it's like your first product in real life.
Yeah, which we're not even pursuing anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and then I was also wondering about because you said go with the flow, don't have like a very rigid planning, for example. But at the same time, you're also speaking about this structure that you and Noor have. Every day you're coming discussing some statistics and seeing how that relates to your
the flow
mentality goals or how you call it. And
that thing I can say that's more like a routine that we do because it keeps our brain fresh, plus like we keep active, and out of those routines we gather ideas of how we can do like strategies fast, because like it's always changing, as Abdulla said, like one day this, one day that. So it's good to be adaptable. It's a very good trait.
To have the knowledge and the statistics Noor said, because with uncertainty, you want to respond to the uncertainty. But what if you're not trained to respond to the uncertainty?
Okay, so that's a way to keep like trained,
exactly. Because the uncertainty causes over-analyzing, and over-analyzing will literally just cause you mental pain. And that's
really hard to like make a decision when you have too many like scenarios with the analysis. So
okay, I see.
Yeah.
I was wondering, could you then give an example of how of a moment that you realized, like I had something in mind, somewhat of a planning, but then you quickly switched to the mentality where you thought like it's not good to have planning, we go with the flow.
Yeah.
Do you have an example?
I mean, we are writing a contract like this week. It's a very big contract between we were talking about this actually, like from the Saudi Arabian holding group, the public fund, and a Dutch company called Vanderoven, and we are the moderators. We're just two students who live on CSN in Lund, who is actually handing $1 billion, like millions of like dollars right here. And we got really scared because because we thought, okay, everything is going to go like we're going to fail, because we were expecting responses. We were thinking of what will they say, and we're thinking, oh, they'll probably say this and this. Oh no. And then the Dutch will say this and everything will be quite awkward between everyone, and everything will literally go to bin. That's like literally having like, we try to combat that, but everything is still uncertain. So when we went to Zoom, when we went on that meeting, everything was completely different than what we expected. So all the planning we didn't matter. Now it was a whole different game that we entered. And that's when they flow and you sit on the nights and discuss statistics and everything. That's when your brain turns on and you're like, I got to freestyle this. And that's why having a fresh brain really makes you feel confident, and they will see that you're confident and the deal occurs. Yeah. So that's one example. I hope I gave some good answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
And I guess the good feedback you got of them is that they continued doing business with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
As you might guess, I have hundreds of questions, which I likely to address you further time, but I was trying to filter them through which one of them would favor all of us in this poll.
Oh, that's very good.
So, thinking about the entire entrepreneurship journey that you started, which was, can you articulate about one or maybe more failures that you, and that does not mean a fatal failure, just like destroy the company, not like that. But you were talking a lot about doing not strict planning, but being a bit more elastic and adaptability, which is very important, I guess, in entrepreneurship world. Can you name or articulate one of your failures which favored you later on, the biggest?
Firing people.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, it's something that honestly sounds very weird, and actually throwing it off like this sounds very weird, but it's actually sometimes like you see in the organization, this is the failure that actually helped us the most, where you have like people who could not adapt to your pace. And when you have them people adapting to your pace, you're slowing down. We did not see that. We actually did not realize that they were slowing us down. But once we fired them, it went quick. And we saw like, yeah, we got up to pace, and now we're getting investors and everything is going smoothly. That was actually why I see it as a failure to fire someone, because now we're talking about why is it a failure to fire someone, because I did not personally want to do it. It's not a good feeling to fire someone.
Yeah, like to rephrase the question a bit, a failure might have seemed as a failure at that moment, but you understood what I meant. And later on it turned with greater favor to you.
Exactly.
And instead you understood that it was not a failure actually at that time.
I agree completely.
I can also give like a part like who we fired. It was basically an engineer, and then when we fired that person, we didn't have an engineer, so we went out really like started working to find someone who is compatible in our group as well. That's so it kind of also pushes you, to go and work more harder once like there's a bit of a tremble or instability in the organization that you have to fix.
That's the tremor we discussed in the beginning here when I thought that the tremor you did not want to take, because firing an engineer in your engineering company, how does that give you leverage? That's when we became also more self-taught, me and Noor, and understood like engineering in itself and AI and how to program and so on.
Do we finish here at 7:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
I don't know the time. Is it what time is it?
7:05.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
So the first one, you're talking about transparency and you have to like what you said, you have to go and talk to the investor.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning that it's not transparency, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It was this word called
which word I think
I'm sorry, sometimes I forget words, but you were saying that you don't have to be transparent. You have to like
me talk about mentality. Have a good
mentality, yes. Because I found out like they can take you for granted if you don't have.
I mean, truly they will take you for granted, because as I mentioned in the beginning, everyone is there like with their purpose of exactly like how states are, how nations are, the survival of the state. In this case, it's survival of the business. So everyone is actually gonna take you for granted, but you have to show them that you're not taking me for granted. And also at the same time, you have to make them get confidence in you to understand there is a mutual respect. Do you have?
I think you were talking about the leverage part, right?
Yes.
Like you have
The leverage part. Yeah. Oh, the leverage part. This is this is a funky one. So if you don't have anything, how do you get investors? Because when you get capital, that's actually when you accelerate and start innovating more. Then it's all about you. It's all about you. That's what I can say. It's all about like, does this individual have the drive enough? Do I feel confident? One of our clients, we didn't have a thing in the beginning, nothing. I wouldn't even hire myself, honestly. But since he saw like, I could trust these people, they have the drive. That's when we got our clients without even having a product. So that's about the leverage. Did I answer you good? Or?
No, it was pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
And there was also a point I read one podcast. It's also about being more like of a battery charger rather than a battery drainer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
And the second question, since you're talking about reading books, like you're not reading more economic books, but you're reading more of these like.
Actually, the opposite for me. I might have like said wrong. I don't read the conscious books. I read only statistics. And then that's when like me and Noor, we sit down like usually during the night and then we conclude about like these statistics. Because conscious books, everyone is different. So when you read the conscious book that somebody has written and they show like their way of reaching goals, you can get inspired of it. But it's actually just showing how this individual with their abilities, how they reach their goals. That it doesn't affect you. So if you're trying to copy their consciousness, you will most likely not succeed, even if though they are actually saying that you will succeed. So what you do instead is that you read statistics, you read situations, you read scenarios, you read the news. I subscribe to like 4 newspapers. So when you read those news, you go and discuss with your friends, then you will create your own consciousness, you create your own mentality, and you will inspire yourself.
So it's like, since you have to like say like, because everybody has their own perspective, you have to put your logic across.
Exactly.
Across all these accumulated articles, that you have to know which one actually works right with your.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Like imagine you're putting yourself into like one for agriculture and another one for like perhaps for
AI, because that's exactly what we're doing right now. We have an agriculture and AI. I did not know anything about agriculture before this. Now I know exactly how much like the tomato requirements in Saudi Arabia. I know exactly what they need. I know how much you should like milk a cow. And I'm doing AI. So it's very important to be like that, diversified, you know. That's exactly when you grow your consciousness, because you're being more of the favorite word I love, woke.
I did this internship, they taught us how to do it.
Yeah.
I was doing this internship called Earth Bank, where they were teaching us more about using more like carbon finance. They taught us more about carbon finance, about carbon credits.
Yeah.
So you have to go to talk to like, you're from Sweden, you have to talk to our companies in India or Uganda or Kenya about buying these products just to reduce enough carbon to not create more carbon finance.
Yeah. This was in Uganda. India. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why you have to be diversified and like find these patterns. True.
Three. I was about to say very nice speeches.
All right, thank you so much.
So like the entire journey of the company itself, but also your journey as well, your personal.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about it's in a situation you have with these sort of 2 investors, right? Or let's say two different entities. One being, for example, Saudi Arabia, and one being sort of from the Netherlands, Dutch. Right?
Yeah.
There are 2 which are with 2 different aims, goals, right? It's very difficult to connect people which are also not just geographically, but also with different kind of aims, right?
Yeah.
What is sort of like the thought process that you go through that of, let's say, trying to connect things which do not seem connected like that?
A very, very good question, because as we talked about before, it's all about survival of the business and they're all thinking of it. So you mentioned the Dutch, you mentioned the Saudi Arabians, they're not investors in our company, they're our clients. So in this case, we're doing consultancy, as we talked about before. What do the Dutch want? You got to sit down and you got to ask yourself that. They want money by selling their product. Okay, what do the Saudis want? They also want money. They want a lot of money, but they want to pay the Dutch to get more money. So when you sit down, you gotta like find these patterns. How are they linked? How could they benefit each other? Because we did something very, very bad actually, but turned out to be great. And that's why like I cannot tell you exactly what we did to the respect to the companies. I ended up very positive, but we took a very risk of breaching business ethics a little bit, not a lot, like I said here, 10%. By calling the Dutch and telling them some inside information from the Saudis that would benefit both of these groups. You just got to act like that. It's a very good question, but depending on the situation you're in and everyone wants to make money, you just got to figure out how can we make this transfer occur? And you just got to do whatever you can to do it. Because in the end of the day, everyone just wants money in the startup world. It's just how it is. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, I lost it for a second. Yeah, so I actually once heard someone told me like you shouldn't be an entrepreneur just for the sake of being an entrepreneur. As in, you're telling that it's a lot of fun, and I mean, yeah, you can see with the energy you guys radiate.
Yeah,
it seems like a lot of fun, but you're not doing it for that part. You're having another goal, right? With this company, why you're doing this, why you chose to go down this path.
Yeah.
And then that could also be a bit personal, but yeah. What is your reason for that? Or do you have maybe like a general theme or a general goal for your company?
Really good question, and I know why you're asking this. You're studying something like similar like this, right?
It could be,
yeah. Actually, that's a very personal question. Because it depends. Like for instance, I started politics because I love Sweden, and I really want to see like how we could develop this country basically through infrastructure. I thought that if you have the more money, you will be heard. The more, unfortunately, it is that way. If you have money, you could influence more. That's the first thought I thought of. I could develop Sweden through influencing. But one of them is also like a very personal one. I won't go into the detail. I think it's basically coming, especially me, and we don't come from Sweden. Especially me, I got like a country that I come from has been at war a lot, and my family suffered a lot. So when we actually came to Sweden, I remember my parents, they were sitting down and they said, listen, like we all got degrees here. You just gotta like get stable and do something with your name. Like everyone get a business. That's why every single member of my family has a business, because everyone went into this. So that's one of the reasons why I'm into it as well. A third reason, an extra bonus reason that we'll give you is also, as well, me and Noor, we have it a lot. I think some of you might have it as well. And that is in Islam. I'm a religious individual, and our prophet was a merchant. He was a businessman. He was himself an entrepreneur. And in the Quran, it states very strongly that in order for you to maximize the utility of your nation or the area you live in, you have to conduct business. So that's one part that I'm following a lot and very strongly.
So would you say that that is something you could recommend every startup to get like in touch with your inner motivation, or?
I suppose so.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you are in touch with your inner motivation, that will help you go through like very, very difficult situation, because you have like an end goal kind of, like a vision that I want to be in this position. So like the whatever like struggles you have, you can like tackle it a bit easier.
True.
I guess I have a bit of a different. My first question actually is the fact that I do see women in here, and you seem awfully quiet. So, and you're very much, like the words you use are very masculine. Like, just put yourself out there, just speak out. Don't overthink. Like I make notes of everything you said. I go in with a plan. But yeah. So would you? So just this isn't my question, but just one of them. What would you say to women getting into business, and how do you actually encounter a lot of women? Because artificial intelligence is very male dominated.
It is super male dominated. I don't encounter that many like females actually in business, unfortunately. However, the females I encounter in business are one of the smartest individuals that I've met. I don't know exactly why it is due to that, but what I would say to females in this case compared to males is actually, I don't want to speak like in a way to sound masculine, but I think if females actually do like this, like follows the bullet points that I've actually preached right now, I think they would be successful, because the females that I've met, they are like even more like masculine in that sense. They are super strong females who like would like stand up and actually shame you if you said something wrong. And they get a lot of attention. And due to that attention they're getting a lot of, their influence a lot. So that's what I have seen. But unfortunately, I haven't encountered a lot of females in this business. So I can't give directly like, but I think, yeah.
Great, but great. I mean, like, come on, we all need to start businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to start one, and I told you just before I didn't want
Exactly,
to start
yeah.
it, so you sold me.
Yeah.
But what I'm also curious about is obviously in the EU, you know, we care a lot about AI ethics. Like, you know, we want actually explainable AI, we want transparent AI.
Yeah.
And you know, there's like a regulation coming in to
Yeah,
this. I mean,
exactly.
I don't know if agriculture, where it would fit into this. But I'm just thinking that also with like Saudi Arabia and their own like culture, how do you actually, like, it kind of relates to your question, but in a sense, like directly about AI and its own values, and how you even go about.
I mean, so we have the GDPR in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we, like, for instance, with our main product that we're going to, we don't do any facial recognition. We can't recognize any individual. That's the first case. That's what we do here. In Saudi Arabia and the other countries, they don't mind. Yeah. And the issue is it's not the fact that they have like a very strong state apparatus in Saudi Arabia. It's more of Sharia law. And when people usually hear Sharia law, they get scared. They think, it's all about being oppressed, while it's actually not like that, because Sharia in Arabic means law. However, one of the biggest laws that we saw in the United Arab Emirates, which actually one of the investors in our company right now, I had a meeting with them yesterday, is that they preach the freedom of business, which is part of Islam. So there's no regulation when it comes to business. You can do whatever you want to do and nobody minds. You could evenly, like, it's super capitalistic in that sense. So they don't have it. I think like in Sweden with the background in it's a social democratic society where you have the Svenska folkhemmet, which is super important. You want to control the norms, you want to control the emotions, like you always want people happy. So they have regulated the free market here in Sweden. Therefore, you go into these laws of GDPR, which says you can't recognize people. Or the Swedish law, who says you can't even record your labor. So you cannot actually record your labor here in Sweden, but you can do it in France. So, but in the Middle East, go ahead, do whatever you want to. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this presentation, Abdulla.
Thank you so much.
Great. And since
Thank you.
You're talking about Middle East, because we're both from the Middle East.
Yeah.
And right now, like here now, Middle East, like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, lots of youth startups have been starting.
Fortunately, yes.
There's been so many startups. Like
Truly.
the ones I know in Lebanon and Syria, so they've been starting lots of startups.
Yeah.
And the market has been extremely competitive among the youths for the startups.
Yeah, that's completely, I agree. As I told you before, you have to scale up internationally, and we saw like the growth in the Middle East is actually exponential compared to the rest of the world. Is together with East Asia, India, and Bangladesh, the Arab Middle Eastern world is actually growing a lot in that sense too. The venture capitalists we spoke to yesterday, their minimal investment in a company, their minimal ticket is the maximum ticket in Sweden investment. So in Sweden, they give you like 2 million maximum, and they can't cross it. Whilst in Dubai, it's their minimum, and they don't even consider it. So you have those differences, and you have also to think about like the economy in Europe, which is loan based. Sweden is actually one country that have the most debt. It's actually true. It's not debt for the state, it's debt for the people. The people's allowed, everyone got loans. It's a problem. In the Middle East, you don't have loan system, you don't have interest rate, which is also something you should like target, there's no interest rate,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is why many of us from our countries, they either go to the Gulf, they go to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait,
Exactly.
or they go to West Africa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like Middle Easterns in West Africa who are like investors, and they've made lots of money from the West African.
Yeah, the venture hub there. Yeah, I agree. Yes.
I want to actually ask about competition. Have you noticed any competition? And if you have, like, what is the differentiation you guys have?
Competition is like the strongest, actually one of the biggest headaches you can have in the entrepreneur. Wow, people really want to compete, and it's not that just like you come into a market that is already how to say, like, you don't have any existing competitors. Like if you come with a different idea, people will enter the market with you. However, I will give you some, before I jump to the answer, I will give you some bullet points right here, or like one bullet point. And that is the fact that if you are the first one to enter the market, good, you stay. If you're the second one to enter the market, that's very good, you stay. If you're the third one who enters the market, you got to do a very good market research. And if it's positive, you stay. If you're the fourth one who enters the market in a homogenized world, no, because you're going to fail in 5 years. So it's not going to be long term. So how do you compete? Well, you got to be fast. You got to be super fast, and you got to be very radical. Differentiation is the number one thing. You got to zig in order for you to zag. Do you understand what I mean by that? Yeah. So we haven't actually experienced a lot of competition right now, even though AI market is huge. But we came up with a product right now. We sat down with lawyers because we're going to like do the patent, and they want to see like similar cases. The lawyers looked at it and said, "Yo, there's no similar case." We're like, "Oh, okay, let's go." Now, what is the problem? Now we're entered untouched market. Is that when you enter the untouched market, the word spreads. Then you're gonna have like 1 million people jumping into the market. And how do you compete that? Once again, you got to be fast. That's what you got to be. Yeah.
I have a small follow-up.
Yeah.
Because it is also like, it's the early stages at the moment, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, when you are starting, you also have to kind of have a bit of a long term to see how things go, right? Have you ever considered about exit strategy?
What do you mean, like?
In the sense that because of course you are growing at the moment, right? But you have to think about perhaps later on, like, where do you end up? Not just as a company, but also as yourself. Like, do you consider yourself getting involved in the company long term, or maybe perhaps even finding a good investor or good buyout or something? Do you consider like?
Usually, if you do entrepreneur, like, I don't know, like people have different I don't know, strategies about like being an entrepreneur. For me, I see this like extremely long term. I want to work with this because it's super fun, and it's something that
it also would motivate you as well if you're like more focused in the present of like getting stuff. And once like you reach a limit, then I think by yourself you'll kind of realize, okay, I'm at this limit. Maybe it's better if I go to another project. So
so you got to see that. Usually the investors always have exit strategies. They see.
Yeah, investors.
They always have.
They always have that.
You yourself on the board is exactly like Nu said. You have to like realize by yourself what is the most important. How does the business survive? Do I need to leave for the business to survive? And sometimes you reach that conclusion. Oh yeah, I have to leave. So we don't see that at the moment, and I hope that I do not leave very soon. But if I do leave, I hope that it's going to be for a good cause. Thank you. Yeah.
I was curious about, since you were talking about long term, and also connected to the thing you mentioned about the difference in markets and freedom of companies, Europe versus the Middle East. In the Middle East, you have like full freedom, you can do whatever you want. If you want to use face recognition, you can do that, for example.
Yeah.
So I was then thinking the fact that this is more regulated in Europe, I think is because they want the responsibility of all this data and things that people have to be in the hands of democratically chosen.
Precisely.
Right? And in the Middle East, that can then be in the hands of companies. Which in the future also could be you. Right? So how do you view your responsibility? let's say you get very big.
We are very
you-
Swedish.
And you have all that data and face recognition from the Middle East. How do you view your own responsibility?
Delete them.
Yeah.
Delete it. Like honestly, of course, yeah, the data you can sell it and you can sell it and continue to sell it and you get a lot of money. It's like a very big thing. But one thing that we have learned about being a Swedish and Swedish business and coming from LU Innovation is the ethics is very important and integrity. People's integrity is super important. They haven't realized that much in the Middle East since it's super capitalistic in the area. So we really want to boost the integrity sphere because we are literally with our product, one of them, we're breaching the integrity. But since we're not recognizing who it is, we're not breaching anything. But in the Middle East, if we start recognizing who it is, I don't think me and Noor will feel good to have that data. We'll feel. Have you heard the case of Cambridge Analytics?
No.
Yeah, it will be similar to like that, and then the king will write a letter to basically to us stop saving data.
Yeah. Since you're a Swedish company.
Yeah, I think I don't want to put it out that like since we're a Swedish company, we care about integrity. I don't want to do, but that's what you sense in the hub here in Sweden, that you have to care for integrity, you have to respect other businesses and have very good business ethics. So yeah.
How do you then view this tension of competition and the necessity to grow? And as you mentioned, quite often the companies they need to do certain things to stay in the market, right?
Yeah.
And since you're entering the Middle Eastern market, where maybe other people with less genuine ethics than you guys have would maybe do that. Would that make you reconsider this?
Nah, because you know why we're getting all of the clients in the Middle East? Because of the ethics that we have.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why they're trusting us. They haven't seen that. Like they like one of our clients that is from Saudi Arabia. He's saying, "I hate American companies. I really hate American companies. They just want to come here to steal our money, and they don't even tell us what to do or anything, and they don't even say hello." I say hello to him and he loves me. Yeah. So just like to tell him, I don't want data, I want you to have the data. And just by saying that, he got surprised, said like, this company is offering more value than the companies from, out of Europe, I would say.
So it's part of ethics. Adds
that is the differentiation in our business in the Middle East, that we have the Swedish ethics that we're contributing to the Middle East, and they're being
even when we talk with clients, they kind of understand like what's your agenda as well. Because it's good to be transparent and so
that's very interesting to know.
But I feel like I don't know if you know about chatbots. I live with chatbots as well. And there's one called Boost AI. It's from Norway. But the guy actually made all his business plan in the US. But anyway, he's Norwegian. And like the Norwegian bank trusts him. So the Norwegian bank uses this virtual agent. And now it's not Scatter, but anyway, Scatter something. And the virtual agent is called Scatty. And so it deals with like, people dealing with migration or any other questions like and the reason why everyone wants them and doesn't want to go to the US is because they're Norwegian. So they must follow privacy properly, and I feel like it's such a selling point.
True.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And to add on that, like I completely agree to 100% you, but let's make it 120. And that is the fact that like in Scandinavia, it's very, our kingdoms have marketed these nations very well. That what I say, So people trust these nations, like they're not coming here just for money, they're coming here for actual value. And so,
likely the last question. So I was thinking about what could be a question that we cannot answer, but only you guys can answer. So apparently, here the question. So apparently, we are in like we all know that we're in an age that like many things are we can fix many things like very easy. You can even taught yourself coding in like a year. So technology is fast developing, all the classical words whatsoever. So right now, even for your needs, when you need to solve something, it seems very easy with all your resources. If you wanna
YouTube.
get, like to reach knowledge is easier than ever before. Even if you want to hire, especially in your case, you're in Lund, and Lund University has great human resources also. If you cannot solve an issue, you can find an engineering student who can solve that issue. So what I'm wondering is that you are, if I'm not mistaken, you are in your team like 4, 5, maybe 6.
We're up to 7 now.
Okay, you're still small, but you have great minds. So what is? Can you name me an issue? Even though all 7 of you sit and brainstorm around the table with all your resources, what is the thing that you cannot solve with your issues? Because that the answer will lead. The answer will show us what will drive the market in the next 10 years. Because right now, if there's something you cannot solve, that is the future, right?
Exactly.
In the next 10 years.
That's why you have to study political science.
Yes.
Honestly, because with this that.
Oh, I really love that question.
Yeah, because like for example, let's think of that way. 10 years ago, we usually thought AI was the thing that we couldn't solve, right? Like companies needed AI. So right now we are here. Like 20 years ago, let's say, very nanotechnology, biotechnology, whatsoever, we couldn't solve it. Then we created those areas. And right now it is like that. You can hire an electrical engineer,
outsource
you can hire machine learning, whatsoever. We can do them, all of them right now. But when you said, because you seem like the leading, one of the leading companies, if not in Sweden, like if not in the world, definitely Sweden. So that's the one thing you can answer for me. What is the thing you cannot solve with your team?
Wow. I think, first of all, there is nothing that can't be solved. That's what I believe, like with my first mentality. But then you got to understand what is now, what isn't, what thing exists right now that is not solvable. And that's why I mentioned political science, because you have to understand where the state is heading to. So we have like, okay, economy and political science. So we got to understand what's the next step from AI. That's IoT, Internet of Things. That's the next step we're jumping into. Everything's going to be connected to one domain, to one internet thing. And you can talk to your fridge in 5 years. It's unbelievable. So we got to think even further than that. I'm actually working, I can't answer you right now. I'm actually working on a political science project. I call it the Swedish Superstate 2070, which I believe like is my thoughts of how Sweden will be in those years. But honestly, Utku, I can't answer your question. It's very difficult. We need to do.
I know. But for example, like from my perspective, what I can see is that let's say the general issue when you try to brainstorm with your team is when you address, okay, guys, we need this, then it's only a matter of time to find someone who can fix that. So in that point of view, it only becomes a matter of data in terms of reaching contacts, reaching companies, reaching engineers,
networking in general.
So right now we are playing like I watch a lot of stuff about like all these contemporary events. So for example, everybody knows about Tesla, but we know very little about the data aspect of Tesla. I didn't know that every time a Tesla car drives, it actually gets all the map, like all the physical map of the road that driving on. So it's a crazy matter of data. Google does the same. It even has, you know, several movies whatsoever. So that's what I can see from my small life. Let's put it that way. But where you stand right now, what would be the thing that you could see and address and tell me like this is, I think, the next like 10 years, 20 years dilemma that we're facing? Is it data politics or data? Is it?
Actually, I wrote an index about like making AI, implementing AI in political science, because I think political science in 5 years will actually die out being a literal based like scene. because everything is being digitalized. So we have to also digitalize political science and make our AIs actually function with the political science world. However, in 10 years, we will have a problem. I think everything will be AI in 10 years in Europe. I don't know about the rest of the world. That's because of a different reason. The population is shrinking in Europe. So you look at the fertility rate in these countries are very, very low. So my professor once said on a lecture that he was super scared because nobody will pay tax in the future. So how will a tax-based country survive if nobody's paying tax in the future? That's why we need AIs. So my question is to you, Utku. Figure out, you as a human, what part have we not created yet? What part can we as a human develop? Like Elon Musk, he works with cyborgs. We're going to become a cyborg like population in 2030. That's what he's saying. So whatever, yeah, it's a very difficult question.
No, I can name you right now. I think the moral aspect.
The moral aspect, but what is that's a very big topic that we can enter. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, because like everything, like as a historical sense, everything follows each other, right?
Yeah.
Like we needed to create AI. Now we have AI.
So now we have
what
moral
will be
AI.
the next?
That's her word.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your word?
Oh, my work is looking at how do you, well, actually, it's quite a few things. But it's how do you make them actually adapted to society? So that you actually don't reproduce and amplify social structures that, like, because they're very often you just think, oh, let's just put an AI in this. But little do we know it's very sexist, for example, entrepreneurship, racist, all kind of homophobic, and so it's like, do we really want to just put an AI in there? So it's a lot of things.
Yes, a lot of things.
Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just checked, there was no discussion on the Zoom.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, for the really good talk. It was so inspirational. Thank you.